Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Vroom podcast. It is your host, Fernando Mercado, and we are back. Hi. Welcome to another episode of the Vroom podcast. I hope you guys are doing well. Yeah, I'm out here. We had no F1 races this last weekend, but we had a bunch of other very cool races. We're going to talk about IndyCar. We're going to talk about NASCAR Cup. We're also going to talk about Xfinity. I watched some Xfinity races, just the one Xfinity race, and then we're going to talk about Indy next too because that was cool. And we're going to give a little mention to Formula E. We're covering a lot of ground today, so y'all go be in for a good ride. How you doing? Hope you're doing good today. Y'all liked the little teaser video that I did. I did a little shortcut of the last episode and put it on the socials and on YouTube Shorts, and y'all enjoyed it, which is fire. Love that. Gonna keep doing those. Get more people to hopefully watch and join the gang. For those of y'all concerned with my health, I'm good. I don't need Dayquil. I'm good. We be out here vibing. So let's get into the race, y'all. We're gonna start with NASCAR today. We're gonna start with the kind of semi-chronologically how I looked at everything. The first thing I watched was the Xfinity race. Woo, what a race it was. I think I've watched maybe one other Xfinity race. I'm forgetting which one it was now. I think it actually may have been... No, I'm just completely blanking on which one it was. But what I liked about Xfinity was that it did seem that even though it's not like Cup, the presentation quality by CW is great. And I enjoyed the racing quality. I think that all those drivers are very competitive. And in comparison, the car abilities and the driver ability in comparison to Cup is vastly different. And I think in terms of like hearing what the community kind of says the differences are, especially to someone who's new to kind of the differences between both, there's a different level of competition there. But I was really surprised, going into it, the whole conversation was Connor Zilisch, which you may or may not have heard the name. He is the one that is currently being held as the replacement for Daniel Suarez at Trackhouse next year. And, this is kind of, last time Zilisch drove, it was at Chicago against SVG, and SVG obviously won that Xfinity race, and he won that cup race. And now Zilisch is coming into this new race, and he said that he was going to remember Chicago, and he was going to remember how SVG drove and come back this time. And boy did he. I think that his drive was close to perfect. I mean, he made a couple mistakes here and there, and I know there were some issues. He may have had some issues with the car through the race, or at least trying to figure out strategy in comparison, but he was just really, really impressive to watch how he no fear against SVG, who also drives that way. He's very aggressive, and he's not going to necessarily do, illegal moves, but he's going to push you to the edge. And I believe that Zilisch before thought he was going to race him a little cleaner. And SVG is not really like that. He's going to do whatever he's going to do to get the win. And so Zilisch, knowing that, came in here and came hot right out the gate. And they battled the entire race from beginning to end. They were even told to relax because the gap between them and the rest of the field was so significant. And I think that two things. I think that says something really cool about Zilisch, right? About how Cup Series ready he might be for next season. I mean, he still needs to cook the rest of the season in Xfinity and continue to get comfortable with the tracks and the racing and the car. But I don't know. He's so promising, and he has so many wins already this season. Again, he's just a really fun driver to watch out there because he drives to win, but he's not, he's not a ball sack type of person where he's, you root for him. He's charming, and you're like, oh, you want this kid to win, and watching that battle with SVG, yeah, it shows that he can perform in the car, especially when it matters. I think that's something that we maybe don't always pay attention to when we talk about these drivers, is that what is their ability to perform under pressure, on top of the pressure of driving one of these massive vehicles that are greater than humans, in the sense that they do astronomical things. You got to try and control it, right? You got to live and breathe with it. On top of that, the pressure of having to perform for metrics that we're all measured upon. How many wins you have? Do you need to win this race? Do I need a top 5 this race? Do I need the points? Do I need to support the team in order to get us farther? Do I need to go farther myself in order to win? I think that's something that we've talked about in terms of Lando. Sometimes he misses it. Sometimes he does do it. Recently, he has been applying himself to the pressure and rising above it. And so coming in here and talking about, Connor Zilisch, I think that his ability to know that the pressure was on this race, from not necessarily that his playoff contention is at risk, but he does need to prove that he's gonna be ready for Cup somehow, some way. To Trackhouse, who obviously seems to want him in that seat, but he needs it for himself. He needs to prove it to the drivers that he's coming in to, that are gonna see him as not their competition. And Connor Zilisch wants to be in contention day one, because that's the driver mentality. So, I think that he definitely showed today that, or that day, that he could do that, going up against SVG and not backing down at all, not making sure that he defended, he attacked when he needed to, and executed on the strategy. So big up for Zilisch. I'd love to see that. Yeah, I think that he's gonna be one to watch. I think he's gonna be one to watch. And I had some other drivers that I really enjoyed watching in Xfinity. I really enjoyed watching Nick Sanchez. He's from my hometown. He's a Miami boy. I have to root for the Miami boys. So, and it's good that he's a good driver too. It seemed that he's very talented. He has not as much wins as Zilisch, who was the other driver that I really enjoyed watching. They were kind of neck and neck, aside from SVG and Zilisch, for second, third, and fourth. So Zilisch has more wins, but I thought that they were both just really interesting drivers to watch, and I think that as they continue in Xfinity, they're going to improve, and they're going to. I think I can envision them in Cup eventually. I think they still need a lot more time to cook, and we'll get to more. I think that this past weekend really showed the young aspiring drivers. I think it was a good show for that. If you're like a general motorsport watcher, not just the F1, if you're like, oh, I like racing a little more, and you're kind of aware of the outside of F1, there's a lot of racing, and and it's all very interconnected. And watching aspiring drivers and up and comers kind of move through leagues is very interesting to me, to see how they get to where they end up. It's just the kind of person I am, and I'm a big history buff, and I'm big on the trajectory. I think that we all have a story, and how we get to something is only the beginning or the middle of that story. There was so much, or sorry, yeah, it's just the middle of the story. There's so much before it, and there's gonna be so much after it. But I'm always really intrigued about how you got somewhere, and getting to watch these drivers grow was something that was very apparent this last weekend, and so that's why I wanted to. We had a break from F1. I wanted to take a moment and kind of look at what else is up and coming as we're coming into like the middle end of most seasons. So yeah, all right, let's keep it moving. Sorry, I almost did like a really weird voice there, and I stopped myself because I'm not gonna subject you guys to my absolute weirdness. The next day, we had a cup race. We had a NASCAR cup race. What other cup race would there be, Fern? None other one that we would be talking about. I'm a funny guy. SVG, he won again. Yeah, no surprise there. He made history too with 3 pole to wins. He could have made it 4 if he had won that Xfinity race, but it was interesting for me to watch both races. Because and this is how I feel. I felt like the battle between Zilisch and SVG was the most compelling part of that NASCAR weekend. Because I felt like watching Cup. I think that it was a great race. Let me start there. It was a really good race, and I really enjoyed the race. I think that a big part of NASCAR that maybe from the outside you don't see is the strategy involved in racing in general. I think that's a big question mark for most people's heads. Is like, strategy racing, isn't it who gets first? You just go fast. It's not. It's much harder than that, and the pit stops is an interesting thing. I'm still wrapping my head around pit strategy, tire degradation, fuel saving. There's a lot of aspects that go into racing, and I think in NASCAR, especially with how long stages are, the fact that there's stages in general, and that the races are essentially endurance races as much as they are sprints, and how the comparison versus oval and road course and in rovals and everything matters. And there's a lot of strategy that goes into NASCAR, again, because of how long these cars have to drive for, and the nature of how these NASCAR cars are made. And I think that strategy is something that I'm trying to learn more about it and see how it plays out and pay attention to it. And I think that road courses bring up interesting strategy moves, and I think that's how like a driver like Chase Briscoe was able to compare with SVG this weekend. And there was a moment where Chase Briscoe could have possibly taken the lead, been in a strong contention for the lead in the race. And it was due to pit strategy. It was due to the awareness. They were talking during the race about, how the chief had already known about Sonoma and the tire deck on track, and so he prepared for it, and he made some moves that seemed like, why would you do that, but was essential in Briscoe's kind of dominance over the rest of the field. Not necessarily. SVG was in a race of his own, to be honest. No one really was battling him like that. He had some mishaps here and there. He turned really wide on one of the turn exits, and I think watching the strategy was the very interesting part of that NASCAR race. But in terms of like intense battling in the heat, that you kind of envision when you're watching racing, the best part of the weekend was the Xfinity race with Zilisch and SVG, which I think also again says something maybe about how Xfinity is approaching road courses. I feel like possibly, and this outside in, as I continue to get more involved in my knowledge about racing in the community, this might change, right? But as of right now, I feel like Xfinity is taking the road courses more seriously than Cup, and I think it's because obviously the feeling in Cup in general is that this is a NASCAR, we're an oval series, and these road courses are whatever, and they don't really make up most of the season, in the way we kind of get into the playoffs makes it so that I don't have to care about road courses, and that's true. I feel like Denny Hamlin's one of those drivers has very very open about like how he's like, yeah, no, these road courses aren't for me. I'm not. I don't care about them. I don't care for them. We need less of them. And I'm on the opposite end of that spectrum, where I think that road courses, I think they aren't what the heart of NASCAR is about in terms of the envisioned oval purpose of NASCAR. But I think that the main heart and purpose of NASCAR, like it is for any racing league, is to adequately challenge your drivers. I don't see a better challenge for predominantly oval racers than to make them drive on a road course, because it's an important aspect of racing, I think. And so I believe it's necessary, because you need to take people out of their comfort zone. And I think it's great that you have drivers that hate it. It's great that you have, fans who hate it. I think if you have people who are divided on a thing, that's a good thing. People are going to be talking about it, and as long as it's compelling and engaging, you're still going to bring people in. And I think that NASCAR's typical approach to road courses, and we saw in Chicago, I think mostly across the board, people enjoyed Sonoma, even if SVG was the obvious winner. I think everyone enjoyed the racing quality that we got, the presentation quality on Fox, and I'm on TNT. Actually, they're on TNT right now. Sorry. Yes, the presentation quality on TNT. Yeah, I'm very entertained by these road courses, and I think the more discussion around them, the better. I think that we shouldn't take this maybe negative criticism on road courses and be like, nah, actually we need to placate to them and now take more of them out. I think actually what we need to do is to continue to see how we can kind of balance them if we need to. And I think some of it has to do with the structure of how you get into the playoffs. I think we all kind of feel that this is archaic now, and with the way that they're moving the league, the racing league, now we need to kind of change how we get into it, because everyone's kind of not feeling it, right? I feel like we all know that. I think we're in for a change at some point, so it'll be interesting to see how they change getting into the playoffs, which essentially, as of right now, from my understanding, you need to win. Essentially, you need to win a race in order to get into the playoffs, depending on how many spots, and if all those spots are filled, then it's just by how many people have won an extra race in you. So if it, as SVG won a race, his first race a while ago, and I'm forgetting which exact race it was, but when he won his first race this season, he was already in the playoffs, and now he's third in playoff points, even though he's in the 20s in actual championship standings during the regular season. So that's a big controversy, and I think that brings up controversy about SVG's validity as a NASCAR winner. A lot of people are saying that just because he's a road course winner doesn't mean he's really a NASCAR driver, because that's not NASCAR. I think people just want to be upset, and take away something from someone who's challenging their dominance and their authority and their ego. Just let the man win, just let the man have it. If he breaks a record or two, like, it's okay. We still know who you are. We still will remember you. You're good, bro. you were a legend, or if you're currently a driver and you're pissed, like, I don't know, just do better. And it's not like he's not getting better at ovals. He's getting progressively better at ovals. And I think he's going to win an oval at some point this season. So once that happens, no one can talk. So I think that's what SVG needs. He needs an oval win to kind of solidify himself as like, yeah, I am NASCAR, So yeah, that's an exciting thing to kind of see in general. And I think those were my thoughts on the weekend for NASCAR. I thought it was a great weekend across the board, Xfinity and Cup. I really enjoyed both races. Super happy to see again Chase win another get a podium, after a win not too long ago. He's a charismatic guy. I don't know much of him as a racer, as a person, but seeing him win, I'm like, oh, okay, I like this guy. So, kudos to him. He's doing well. Yeah, I think that was everything I had about Cup, about Xfinity 2. So let's move on to IndyCar. That was the other series that I mainly watched this weekend. And it was a doozy. It certainly was a good set of races. I think that everyone coming into Iowa was like, this race sucks. It's going to suck this weekend. And I know there was lots of talk about, how all the promotion was for NASCAR and there was nothing about IndyCar, and that no one actually watched live. I have talked about IndyCar presentation before, and I'll kind of give my thoughts again here because it's continuing to be part of the conversation, and it's easier to get that out of the way before we talk about the racing itself. I love IndyCar, and I do agree with all the IndyCar drivers in the sense as a person who watches lots of leagues, IMSA, the Formula Regionals in the UK and in the US, and I love supercars. I love rally driving. I love MotoGP. Additional to these are leagues that I watch on my own spare time that I don't cover here. As of now, maybe there's a world where I cover them eventually when this can be more of a full-time thing. But as someone who takes in a lot of racing, I think that the quality of the driving, the intensity of the driving, the product that IndyCar is delivering on a week-by-week basis is incredibly strong. It is some of the strongest out there. It is some of the most intense racing because of I think for the same reason that I love Formula E. These are two racing series that are incredible to watch when you watch them and are very compelling in their own right. And I would say that IndyCar's quality of the product is much better than Formula E's. And it's sad that no one is watching it. And it's sad that not a lot of people know who IndyCar drivers are. If you ask them to name one, they would. I feel like if you had asked me and I was an F1 driver, Takuma Sato. He's not racing right now though. You know what I mean? He just did the Indy 500. I maybe would have known. No, that's it. Colin Hurd, I maybe would know because that's a name that I had heard in the racing world when I was just kind of being introduced to F1 and stuff. But yeah, it's sad that all of these things are true about IndyCar, but for the same reason as I think Formula E has an issue, it's who is delivering this product, right? Not that I necessarily have problems with Fox Sports' presentation of IndyCar. I love the commentators; they're all great. I love Especially Will Buxton. I think that, and James Hinch. I love Hinch because I listen to Off Track with Alex Rossi too, and they're funny and they're great and very smart people. And Hinch was also a driver, so they have incredible insights, and I love listening to Will Buxton because he just is electric. He makes the race electric. Even he could make something very boring during the race just make you pay attention to it because he just understands how to craft a story with his voice. He understands, that which is the same feeling we get from, like, I feel like watching like classic F1. Not that the current commentators aren't great; they're also really, really great at delivering the intensity of the battles and that, making you excited during the race. But Will does it. I feel like he just makes me feel like I'm watching a classic F1 from like the 80s and 90s because he just delivers that excitement, that passion, that grit for the race. He puts you there, and I love listening to him. And there were so many moments, insane things happening this weekend that I would, if I looked away for a moment, Will would get me right back. So Fox does a great job at presenting IndyCar. I know that obviously also the citywide or nationwide promotion of the races is done by the sponsors of said race. And the quality of that differs, and they do better when they're taking over a city in a major city, like Detroit, like St. Petersburg or Long Beach. Those are more packed races for that reason, because they're in a more populated area. They're in the middle of nowhere, Iowa. But I think that more people would watch IndyCar if the presentation of IndyCar, I don't know if the word took itself more seriously, but if it presented like, I don't know, like this is legit racing. There's something about how IndyCar is presented to like through social media to me, and through, I think like the world. I think I have to maybe collect more of my thoughts to articulate this in a way that, it's less just like I'm just gonna throw my emotions out like I did last time, because I've really been thinking about like, oh, how can IndyCar better the product? What are they missing that is not getting them that appeal? And I do think that the commercial appeal that F1 has is yes, actually I think now as I'm talking I'm finding it. We fall in love with the drivers and the teams. That's what made me love F1. Was like I'm watching Drive to Survive, and I'm like, oh, like Max is insane, but his hunger is crazy, and this battle between Red Bull and Mercedes for the win, and Lewis is this strong driver, but the car isn't working anymore, and what is he gonna do? He's still winning, but he wants to be winning more consistently. He wants to be a top dog, and Max is coming. There's so much drama, and that's just like really just one personal side. I mean, there's the Gasly Ocon drama, which was chef's kiss. There's so much great drama in F1 that you just don't see that in IndyCar. And it's the fact that it's there. It's the fact that the battles are there. If you have racing, you have that same drama. You have that same, passion, because the frame isn't different. It's just how it's getting delivered to us, right? I mean, obviously F1, those cars are insanely fast. So, it's in NASCAR, same thing. There's a already pre-approved level of grit and of drama because of the age and where it comes from. And IndyCar has that same kind of level of credibility as a racing league. I mean, there's previous F1 drivers in IndyCar, and they're just as passionate, and the driving is just as intense. But I got into loving IndyCar because I love Pato, and I love Josef and I love Scott McLaughlin, and I was like, oh, I want to keep following these people. But as I keep watching, I'm realizing that Fox doesn't, really make it about these drivers. I feel like IndyCar makes it about themselves as a league, which is also something that NASCAR does. But NASCAR's drivers are so eclectic and bombastic, and it was about the drivers always to begin with too, even when it was a baby league, so they already have that. It's like it became more and more about the corporation as it went on. But it started with the stories of drivers, and the drivers being the forward center, and what we're always trying to. They're the product. They are the product, right? And I don't know if IndyCar does that. It doesn't feel like they do, because I don't know these drivers. I don't know their stories. I don't know. They don't care to show me that. I can watch highlight reels all day, but I don't care about the highlight reels if I don't care about the drivers. Same thing with basketball. I love the Knicks. I want to watch Brunson and Cat. I want them to figure it out, bro. At this point, I would love to see, Mikal Bridges try, do something. We're not this. I know this is not a basketball podcast. We're not about to get in a whole Knicks conversation. However, I buy into basketball because of that. I grew up in Miami watching Dwayne Wade and LeBron James and Chris Bosh. That was the story. Watching them win our first that championship in that period of time in my lifetime. That was the story. And that's how I kind of try to frame this podcast. I try to do it by the narratives, by the stories that we are observing as time is going on, because that's at the end of the day what we're buying into as fans. The driving is awesome. The driving is great, and I feel like for the most part, all these racing leagues develop great cars that are fast, and they are building vehicles. They're building racing that is interesting to watch, for the most part. Obviously, these are things that drivers have different feelings of because they're in the cars and stuff. And in IndyCar, these hybrids have been a problem, and I think obviously is part of the reason why we have so many car failures this season. But yeah, I'm gonna avoid a continual ramble about the IndyCar. Why we don't watch IndyCar, because I feel like I've made my point now that I got there. But yeah, this is a continual conversation, and I feel that it makes me sad. It honestly just makes me sad, because now I'm about to get into the racing, which is what we're all here for, and not a lot of people will really have known what I'm talking about. And I implore you, if you didn't watch the races, they're up on YouTube for free, and just give it a watch, because this last weekend in Iowa, I hope they keep Iowa, and I hope that more people watch IndyCar as time goes on, because yeah, the racing is incredible. So getting into race 1, I think that, going into the weekend, we wanted to know, is Pato just going to dominate everybody again, or are we going to get a new winner? Because we just got Scott Dixon win, because Pato made a mistake. So how did race 1 go? It went really not good for Pato. He was a no-show, pretty much. I think he finished 5th or something. But you know who it was a good race for? Pato O'Ward, my boy. That's my boy, Pato. Patitito, you won. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, let's give it up for the Latina homeboy winning the race. Hell yeah, his first win of the season. Very dramatic win. And let me tell you, that was one of my favorite moments of the whole weekend. I think that we can put a pin in that right there, that moment was fire. The moment where, they're racing, Newgarden has been dominating the whole race. He led leading 232 laps, I believe, is what he did. And then he gets in, they both go into the pits, right? Newgarden first. He pits. Pato knows that on the next lap, he pits, tries to do the undercut. His pit stop is really fast because Newgarden had a little slip on his pit from his team. And then Pato is able to undercut him. Josef tries to attack. Pato defends, and then he just steals the win. He just stays up in front, and it was electric. That was one of those moments where Will Buxton went crazy on the mic, and it was one of, like, I was at work trying to, like, I need to watch this race somehow, and obviously I can't because I don't have any cable, so I can't watch IndyCar or any NASCAR necessarily live, but I was able to, but then I was like, oh, you can actually see the battle cams on the IndyCar app for free. So I was like, oh, fire, then I'll do that. And that's kind of an exciting way to watch the race if you can't watch the newscast. So I watched it from Pato's perspective right as he was, I think I caught on right as he was in the pits. So I jump on, he's in the pits, and I watch him. The camera, literally, they spin it to Newgarden right behind him, and I watch him defend, and I'm like, oh my god, he's in first. And I'm a big Pato fan, so I've been pulling for him to win, and now that he has a win, I'm really happy. I'm not saying that I love McLaren, but I love their drivers. Some of their drivers are some of my favorite across the board. And in this instance, yeah, I'm a big award fan, and so watching him race was fire. Watching him get the undercut was fire. There was a lot of really great racing that race. Lots of slip ups. I think I'll talk about it a little bit later too, but just have to make a quick mention of McLaughlin. He started last, made it to fourth. I mean, that was insane. He is again one of my favorite drivers for his personality. He's really funny. He's and this is also from watching 100 Days to Indy, which it's on CW. If you haven't watched it, you can watch it on CW for free, and on the app. And it's a great kind of look through into, if you need backstories into these drivers, which is something that Fox did do. They did make that show. Which is cool. It helps us have our, Drive to Survive moment, getting to know these drivers. And I think that's obviously where my love for Award came. And, if you haven't watched it, go give it a watch. But I love Award. And yeah, so race one, exciting. Oh, and then that's why I mentioned that show McLaughlin. I saw him on that show, and I think that if you watch that show, he's just like he's kind of a tender guy. He's a compassionate guy through kind of the anger that he has to the other side of that. That's very me coded. I felt that, and so yeah, he's someone I root for too, and he's been having a crap season. So seeing him kind of like persevere, rise above, and not say, all right, I'm down, I'm gonna just chalk it up to next weekend. He said, no, this is my moment. I'm in a rocket ship. I can do it. And he almost got a podium, bro. If it hadn't been if Will Power had a bad day, he would have won. Or sorry, he would have gotten that third place podium. So yeah. Love to see him be up. But now we're going to talk about race 2. And race 2, Newgarden, he was looking for redemption. Pato was looking to just be in the conversation again and win. And that's exactly what he did. Yeah, let's just mention the heartbreak for Penske again in general, but like, they kind of came back, kind of didn't. Like race 1, they certainly came back. Race 2, they screwed it up. Andretti did too. I'm gonna talk about Andretti later, but McLaughlin out first lap, not his fault though. That was definitely DeFrancesco's fault. And then Will Power car failure, that is on Penske, and then Newgarden was there. But he was on it. He actually took the lead from Pato during the race, and he did it on a good strategy, I think. And then he lost the spot Oh yeah, so he was doing well. They screwed him on a strategy. He went farther back. I think he was up in third, and then he went farther back to like 10th, and he chalked his way back up, and then took the lead, and then they screwed him on the pit again, and then he ended up in 8th or something. Like, heartbreak for real. And in Iowa, especially, where Josef Newgarden is like corn king, that's what they call him, I believe. So yeah, man, like, again, I know we hate to see a man up, but man is so down, so down. And I'm coming in having not seen like a Joseph dominance before, so it's just kind of sad to know that he's this guy, but then like kind of have it fall apart under him for a lot of ways, not his fault. So it's just kind of, at one point it was like, ah ha ha, but now it's just kind of like, ugh, ooh, like, does that make sense? Yeah, man, Polo's crazy. He's nuts. He just keeps winning. He keep on winning. Them Chip Ganassi, that 1-2 with Scott Dixon again. Fire for them. They're having a great season. They're the Penske's of this season, so they'll take it. And I think we're gonna kind of talk a little bit about. We're gonna kind of cap it by talking about the crosses. I felt like there was a lot of like intersectionality between a lot of the racing this weekend, and then kind of talk about some rising stars. And someone that I want to mention, two people here that are part of that rising star category. We got Marcus Armstrong and David Malukas. I think David Malukas was in strong contention all day to possibly take the lead, and also to just be in a podium. It kind of fell through for him, but he put on a strong race, and this second race and over the weekend in general. And he's someone, obviously, it's really funny to see him in comparison to Santino Ferrucci on the same team, because I think we forget they're both on the same team, because Santino's a dog in not necessarily the best way, and not the good way. And Maluk is a strong racer, but he does it cleanly, and he does it in a way that, I think we all can agree is the way you should probably end up racing if you want to do it for a long period of time, and win. So I think that yeah, I really appreciated. I really liked seeing him up there and perform well and have a good day out there. His win is coming. I'm telling you, his win is coming. He's coming for it. And, Armstrong has been having really good performances all season. He's been looking for that podium. He has only had the one other one, I believe, from last season. So seeing him get another one, that's a guy. That's the guy coming up. So I'm here for it. Yeah. Let's talk about kind of my strong. I want to talk about actually rerouting. I want to talk about. Had a little power rankings for the week. I'm gonna just kind of go through my weekend MVPs. People I thought this weekend did the strongest. Obviously, Connor Zilisch. He's the future. I think he's the future coming into NASCAR, and I'm really, really excited when he finally takes that Trackhouse. See what he chooses to do, but I want to see what the championship looks like, because he can be a strong contender to win it. I'm gonna try to catch some more Xfinity races. I might talk about more of them on the podcast, but yeah, if you have some time to catch some Xfinity races, you can watch them on CW. I believe to watch it live, you do need cable, but you can watch it on the app. I believe like next day for free, so full replay too. So do that. Alex Palou, another weekend MVP, and in this instance, like, we're all kind of tired about talking how Palou wins, but I will say this: I'm gonna give Palou this weekend his chops, because this was not an easy win for him. Malukas was on him all day. Joseph had literally taken the lead, And Pato was also somewhere in the mix there. There's a lot of people gunning for him that race, and he isn't doesn't have the best track record on ovals. He really just has the Indy now, and now he has a short oval track. So I think that he's kind of solidified that he can perform on ovals now. So I'm definitely gonna give him his chops there. Wow. Yeah, when you talk for a long time, bro, your throat be getting dry. You really do. I'm gonna have to start bringing some water to these. Moving on, talking about another weekend MVP. And this part, Shane Van Gisbergen is the reason why I wanted to do it all at the end, kind of like as a recap. I wanted to do that because I would have had to put him twice if I did it separate, and I just can't do that because I would have had to say the same thing twice. I was like, you know what? We're just going to recap all of them all at once, all weekend. So, yeah, SVG just conquered this weekend. A young dude named Connor Zilisch was the only person who was able to contend with him, which, sucks, which would make me feel bad if I'm in the Cup Series TBH, and I would be like, yeah, I don't do road courses. I don't think SVG's a real NASCAR winner if I was in Cup too. So felt that heavy. So he dominated. He ate, left no crumbs. Call it a day. Pack it up. Let's go see how Dover goes. Yeah, next we got Scott McLaughlin on the list there. Scott McLaughlin came. He thought he was gonna have a duo good race. He did not. Devlin DeFrancesco said, "Oh, I screwed you once, I screw you twice. Shame on me both times." He did not say shame on me. He actually thinks it's not his fault. It was though. But yeah, Scott definitely got screwed on the second race, but he had such an amazing first race. I think that you have to take that. You have to take that and feel good, going into next weekend. And I think that if he, if the car doesn't crap on him, or if Devlin doesn't come with a vendetta, if he doesn't come for round 3 again, I think Scott could actually, maybe win a race. So let's see how it goes. And Marcus Armstrong, who I talked about, I think he was a breakthrough kind of young guy coming through and showing that he had the chops this weekend. So happy for him. I had a few disappointments this weekend, and I kind of already touched the Newgarden situation. I think that watching Newgarden lose, bro, like, it's hard when he spins out. I actually find it more heartbreaking to watch him get so close twice to win. I love watching the Pato win. I don't feel bad for that just because it was Pato, but the watching him with Pillow was difficult. I think that watching the strategy fall apart, something that he worked so hard to get again, and just kind of like Indy, just not have it pan out. Yeah, man, it's rough. And it's not necessarily all his fault. So hopefully they have better luck this next weekend. With Andretti, bro. What happened, bro? Andretti, ¿qué pasó, bro? Because the car should be working fine. That right front tire. What's going on? It's not working for y'all. Kyle Kirkwood did not do well this weekend and crapped out race 1, race 2. He crapped out this weekend. Marcus Ericsson out. Colton Herta out. Just spinning. Like, what? Andretti's got to get it together, because they have a very stacked lineup with lots of potential from those drivers, and they're getting none of it out really at this point in the season. So get it together, Andretti. And honestly, I was a little disappointed by Ty Gibbs. I felt like he was a favorite coming into Sonoma, and I wanted to see, okay, what does this guy got? I'm still waiting. I mean, he's a great driver. He's been performing well in the mid, but I want to see it, bro. I want to see the hunger. I want to see the fire, and I don't know if it's his car. If it's been crapping out, but I just want to see him more in the mix. I want to hear more about him. And I felt like he was kind of a non-starter this weekend. So, yeah, that was kind of a disappointment for me. out there. Yeah, and I think that what we're looking at now, right? We're looking to the next races. I want to just quickly talk about F1 because we got the next race. I believe they're in Spa, Austria this weekend. That's gonna be. I love Spa. That's one of my favorite tracks in the world. Um, if not as of right now, my favorite track in the world. So super excited to watch these F1 cars rip it through Spa. And I think that, I'm looking for another Lando win. I'm looking to see, they had a little break. There's a lot of stuff going on with the Max conversation. Now that Christian Horner's left, is Max moving to Mercedes? I've heard lots of rumors saying he is moving to Mercedes and that he's already signed. So, oof. I don't know, bro. I think that the silly season is about to get so silly, bro. It's about to get so silly you're not even ready for it. It's actually gonna get so silly that my cat here is deciding that he wants to get in the mix. Hi, Olive. You want to say hello? Want to say hello to the fans, to the 3 people watching? Hi, kitty. Yeah, my cat likes to just join in every once in a while, so yeah, he's just gonna chill here. Oh, yeah. But yeah, I think I'm excited to see how all the kind of outside conversations about Max and his future are gonna affect the race coming in. If we're gonna hear anything, see anything, I'm wondering about people like Yuki, Franco. I'm wondering about Sauber, if they're gonna actually be able to come in this race and compete again, or if they're gonna struggle. About Ferrari, did they have time to kind of figure out what's going on with the car? These are some of the questions in my head as we're coming into Spa this weekend. With IndyCar, I'm wondering, how many more new winners are we gonna get? Palou seems to have a pretty good stance on his confidence. I think he's lost that streak now. We're gonna see some more wins. I just wonder, like, where it's gonna fall in line between after Palou. Is Pato gonna be able to keep second? Are the Penske's going to be able to make a comeback, in the points especially? Is Scott Dixon going to kind of fall in line somewhere there? And is Andretti going to be able to make a splash? Is Kyle Kirkwood going to be able to somehow make a comeback and get some points on the board there? And can Colton Herta have a decent season? These are some of my questions for IndyCar. And in terms of NASCAR, I think that we got a lot of questions about, the in-season challenge. We know that Ty Dillon and Tyler Reddick are the favorites right now. They're doing really well. They're not necessarily people you talk about in terms of the race. I think that we maybe talk about Tyler Reddick a little bit more, obviously, because he's a winner. And Ty Dillon is not, if I'm not mistaken. Please yell at me if I'm wrong. But I like Tyler Reddick too. I have watched I'm forgetting the name of the Full Speed of the NASCAR Netflix show. I believe it's called Full Speed. If you haven't watched that, also watch that. It is a very, very well done show, especially season 2 quality presentation wise. You can tell that they definitely had more money season 2. But yeah, I love that show, and you learn a lot about people like Tyler Reddick on there, and he's one of those drivers that I like to watch. So I put my money on him for the in-season bracket. I don't have any money, thank God, because I lose all my money. I would have lost all my money day one, as we all know how that went. But yeah, these last couple of playoff spots is kind of the continual conversation through the rest of the season. Bubba is continual downfall. Bowman, Priest now has kind of been in the conversation as of late. Keselowski, Kyle Busch. There's lots of drivers out there looking for their wins. So I'm just thinking, or for good position, good points So I'm just wondering, like, again, kind of like IndyCar, like, are we gonna get any new winners? Who is gonna be able to kind of make it work? Because honestly, like, I don't know if the drivers that are kind of left have the hurrah to like win a race. I think that it's gonna be the contenders as usual from now on. So that's kind of my take on that. So we shall see coming into this next weekend at Dover. So I'm really excited. Thank you guys for sticking it out. Oh, right before I finish, I wanted to talk about one more kind of aspiring driver. Forgot to mention, I watched the Indy Next race. And if you have, I mean, Indy Next is, I feel like, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not underdog, but they're kind of slept on, right? They're not really like a league that people will watch because they're the minor leagues, just kind of like Xfinity, except that obviously Xfinity has more promotion behind it. It is more of a seen as a legitimate league, whereas like I feel like Indy Next doesn't have that like global appeal or that like stamp of like, yeah, the racing here is of quality. And I think that's part of maybe the perception that IndyCar itself has on Indy Next. They definitely see it as a minor league. I don't necessarily feel that they have any want to pursue putting money into promoting them in any real way. And I think that's very evident by the fact that I don't know any of these drivers at all. I don't know any of their stories. The only person I actually know about is Haley Deegan, because she is the daughter of a famous motocross driver, and she also has been a predominant driver in and of herself before she joined Indy Next. I think it's exciting that she's in Indy Next. I don't think that she's doing very good this season, and that's okay. She is learning the car. I let her learn the freaking car, and I think eventually she'll get good. So yeah, I don't know any of these people. However, I watched Indy Next because during the week after the Iowa won, I heard that Miles Rowe, who is a very fantastic driver, and he also is the first African American winner in Indy Next history. Was the stat thing that I saw, and that made it very interesting to me, because obviously anytime I see of a POC doing good things in racing, I'm listening. And so I was like, okay, now I have to watch the Indy Next race. And what I like about Indy Next is that it's short. It was 50 minutes. It was less than an hour. The racing itself was like half an hour. And it was pretty exciting. I thought that the battle between Dennis Hauger, who's a rookie from Formula 2, kind of an older driver, was able to kind of come back with Indy Next. And he's been absolutely demolishing the field, leaving absolutely no crumbs. And Miles Rowe isn't a rookie; it's his second season, but he is looking for that first win in Indy Next. And I don't think it was a stat that they said during the race, but it was something that they said after the fact that he was the first black race winner in Indy Next. And watching him race, man, he was stupendous. He was phenomenal. He stayed on Dennis like a hog. Dennis kept trying to get a car in between them as they were lapping, because it's a short oval. They're gonna lap cars a lot, and so as he was lapping people, Dennis, he was trying to get that car in between them, and Miles either like the next turn essentially passed the car, or just followed the same line Dennis was on and did the overtake with him. He was insane, and you could tell he wanted that win. And I think that I believe he's the only black driver on the field, and there is no black driver in IndyCar unless I'm stupid and blind. And obviously I think we can say something similar about NASCAR. I believe Bubba is also the only black driver. I've talked about it being important for one to be able to see themselves up there in order to believe that they can do it, and in order for them to see themselves in the stories that they're involving themselves with racing. And it was really exciting to see that Miles Rowe dominatingly won. Not that he led all those laps, but that he took that freaking race. He was the star. It was not the leader. The leader was merely the supporting cast in the story that Miles Rowe needed to tell that weekend. I think it's an important win. I think it's a powerful win. I think it's powerful to me to see it. And as important as it is for me to excitingly watch Daniel Suarez win at Xfinity, and for me to watch, Pato win here, how even, I haven't watched a Carlos Sainz win, and Carlos Sainz and I aren't the same ethnicity, but watching Carlos Sainz as a Spanish person, as of us having semblance of blood between us, it's important for me to see those drivers win, because then I can feel not that I'm gonna race in these leagues, but that can be me up there, that these stories are for me too, that I have a place there, seemingly also a place in this world. We can't negate the importance of those things, and it's brilliant to watch Miles, I think, do that for people. I'm sure that there are going to be tons of people that he has now inspired, that he has inspired, he will continue to inspire with his racing, and something only few people can do on that field, on any racing field. It's something that I also look up to Lewis Hamilton for, how outspoken he is for his social justice and for his beliefs. At the end of the day, he stands so strongly for his beliefs, and they are righteous. I think we all can agree on that in terms of our societal codes, not to get philosophical here on the racing podcast, but sometimes we do have to, because things are important, and it was important for me to talk about Indy next and make sure that that was something that it was a really cool moment for me, and I wanted to point it out and talk about Miles Rowe. And bro, I'm excited to see you in IndyCar. He also lives in New York, so that's kind of fire. It's cool when you know that drivers don't live that far from you, so it's pretty sick. That was the weekend. That's the episode. It was kind of a longer one because obviously I watched a lot more racing. I said I'd talk about Formula E real quick. Yeah, Oliver Rowland won. That was it. Yeah, everyone else was kind of a non-starter. Dan Ticktum is fire. Like always, he didn't win or anything, but just gotta say Dan Ticktum is fire, and Cooper Caro is fire. I'm excited for Formula E. I'm gonna hope to be able to cover Formula E more next season, because I'll have this whole thing more figured out. But yeah, man, I would watch the Formula E replays if you can. They are on the Roku channel. It's really annoying. You gotta go on the website. Can't go on the app because the app sucks. Roku channel, fix your stuff in general. Your whole system sucks. But definitely fix. But definitely if you can manage it to make it work for you. Formula E is really exciting. The racing itself is very exciting. And the drivers are very funny and just as passionate as the F1, F2 drivers, and the IndyCar drivers. So, yeah, definitely watch them. Cool to see Oliver Rowland win. Excited to see how next season pans out, and I'll do some, during testing, right before the season starts, my thoughts kind of coming in, and we'll keep everything moving. appreciate you guys for being with me. If y'all listen to the end of the episode, thank you. It really does mean the world to me that you did. And even if you listen to like a minute of it, I also appreciate that too. It means the world to me that anyone takes time out of their day to listen to my little old thoughts and possibly engage with them. So yeah, let's see how this thing keeps growing. Have a good rest of your weekend. Excited to talk about races. Make sure to watch the races, and I'll see you guys next Friday.